The town of Font was a quiet place, the kind of town where people smiled at each other on the streets, where kids played without worry, and where the biggest scandal was usually a late library book. But under its peaceful surface, something dark was brewing. Marcus Green had no idea that his life was about to change forever. He was just a simple man, kind-hearted, hard-working, and known for always helping others. He ran a small repair shop in the center of town, fixing radios, clocks, and anything else people brought to him. His hands were rough from years of work, his eyes full of quiet wisdom. Marcus had no enemies, or so he thought. But there was one problem. He knew a secret. A dangerous secret, and that secret was about to put a target on his back. It had started 6 months ago. One evening, while repairing an old radio, Marcus had accidentally overheard a conversation that was never meant to be heard. The voices on the other end spoke of corruption, crime, and a plan to frame an innocent man. The voices belonged to powerful men, Judge Alexander Mo and 2 police officers, Daniel Carter and Ryan Cole. Marcus had immediately understood the weight of what he had just heard. He knew he couldn't just forget it, so, instead of turning a blind eye, he did the only thing he could think of. He recorded it.at first. He had no idea what to do with it. Who could he trust? Who could he turn to? For weeks, he kept the tape hidden inside a small wooden box in his home. Every night, he would stare at it, wondering if he had the courage to expose the truth. He knew that if he did, he would be going up against some of the most powerful men in town. But before he could decide, his fate was decided for him. One cold morning, just as the sun was rising, Marcus heard a loud knock on his door. When he opened it, 2 police officers, Carter and Cole, stood outside, their faces blank, their eyes cold. "Marcus Green," Carter said, his voice sharp. "You're under arrest." "What?" Marcus took a step back. "For what?" But before he could get an answer, they grabbed him, twisting his arms behind his back and slapping cold metal handcuffs onto his wrists. "You're being charged with theft, fraud, and obstruction of justice," Cole added, his smirk barely hidden. Marcus was stunned. "That's insane. I didn't do anything." "Tell it to the judge," Carter muttered as they dragged him to the police car. And just like that, Marcus Green, the man who had never even gotten a parking ticket, was being framed for crimes he didn't commit, and worse. Judge Mo was the one handling his case. Within days, the whole town was buzzing. People whispered in the streets, confused and shocked. Marcus Green? A criminal? It didn't make sense. But the evidence was overwhelming: witnesses, documents, reports, all pointing to him. What the town didn't know was that every single piece of evidence was fake. Judge Mo had personally made sure of it. Sitting in the courtroom, Marcus could barely believe what was happening. His whole life was being torn apart right in front of him. His shop had been closed, his reputation destroyed. He could see the doubt in the eyes of people who had once trusted him. And yet, in the back of his mind, he held on to one thing: the truth. Because hidden in his home, inside that small wooden box, was proof of everything. And he wasn't the only one who knew about it. As the days passed, something unexpected happened. People began to question the case. Some started whispering, what if Marcus was innocent? What if the judge and the officers were hiding something? And then, a local reporter, Sarah Bennett, began digging into the case. What she found changed everything. The documents used to frame Marcus? Inconsistent. The witnesses? Unreliable. The entire case? Suspicious. And then she heard about the tape. If Marcus really had evidence that could expose the truth, then everything made sense. Judge Mo and the officers weren't just corrupt, they were desperate, desperate to bury the truth before it could destroy them. The town was no longer sure who to believe. And that was exactly what Marcus needed. Because doubt? Doubt was the first step toward justice. The night before the final hearing, Sarah managed to sneak into Marcus's house. She found the small wooden box, hidden under a loose floorboard. Inside, she found exactly what she had been hoping for, the recording, along with documents proving corruption at the highest levels. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. The entire town had come to watch. Judge Amo sat in his chair, looking confident. But when Sarah stood up and held up the evidence, his face turned pale. "This," she said, her voice clear, "is the truth." She played the recording. The courtroom fell silent. And then, chaos. People gasped. Some shouted. The officers looked at each other, panic in their eyes. Judge Amo tried to stop it, tried to claim it was fake, but it was too late. The truth was out. And the truth? The truth could not be stopped. Within hours, the judge and the 2 officers were arrested. Investigations were launched. Marcus was released, his name cleared. The town, once blind to the corruption around them, had finally opened its eyes. And Marcus? He was no longer just a repairman. He was a symbol. A symbol of truth. A symbol of justice. As he walked out of the courthouse, people cheered. Some clapped him on the back, others simply nodded in respect. He had won. Not just for himself, but for everyone. Because no matter how dark things seemed, no matter how powerful the enemy, the truth would always prevail. Font would never be the same again. The town had learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. Justice wasn't just about laws. It was about people. And people? They had the power to change everything. As for Marcus? He returned to his repair shop, but he was no longer just fixing broken radios. Now, he was fixing something far more important. A town that had once been blind. A town that had finally found its way back to the light. And so, the dark veil over Font was finally lifted. Marcus's courage restored justice, and the town found peace once more. The people learned that honesty and bravery would always prevail. The future was bright, and the truth would shine forever. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. More thrilling stories are on the way, stay tuned.